So, Lone Rider here. Just got back from a bike ride, and I wanted to talk about something, namely this. This is the Spyderco Ambitious, and this is what I would conclude right now anyway is probably the best small or mini EDC knife on the market. The blade is only 2.25 inches, so 2¼ inches. It has a lockback design, and it's fairly light for its size. It's got open back construction, skeletonized steel liners, G10 handle scales, etc. Now, this is very similar to a knife I used to EDC for over a year called the CRKT Squid. That had the same length blade, and it was roughly similar shape in terms of it was short and stocky. It had a thicker hollow ground blade rather than a full flat grind, and it obviously had thumb studs instead of a spider hole. And it was a frame lock instead of a liner lock, but in overall shape and so forth, it was roughly similar and about the same size. Actually, this is a little bit bigger. So why do I like this over the CRKT Squid? The Squid's a nice knife, don't get me wrong, but this has a lot of advantages. The first one is that the Squid had three problems that I noticed anyway. One is it was extremely heavy for its size. It had solid stainless steel handle scales, big backspacer, whole 9 yards, thicker blade. The second is that it only had a single position pocket clip, tip up righty. And the third thing is that it was kind of hard to open with those little bitty thumb studs and everything being so close together and tiny. This solves all those problems. The spider hole, as I've said before and will continue to say, is the best non-flipper, non-assist opening device that I've found. For me, it's the easiest to use. This knife is incredibly light, open construction, skeletonized liners, etc. Even though it's a little longer than the in the handle, the blade's the same length, but the blade on this is taller. Even though it's a little longer overall and has a slightly taller blade than the CRKT, it's actually lighter. And lastly, it has a 4-position, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4 position pocket clip. So this hit all the bells and whistles. Now, it has a lot of other advantages. Although it is made in China, it is a Spyderco, so the fit and finish is pretty good. It's even better, I would argue, than some of the bird knives, which is the budget line Spyderco offers. Those are made in China too, and they're generally speaking good knives, but I've noticed that, for example, a lot of times the pocket clip screws are stuck and you can't get them off. On this, no problem. The stock position was here. I switched it to here. Left hand, tip up carry. Perfect for me. And just overall, it's a very smooth, very well finished knife. The blades, it's CR13 MOV steel, same as the CRKT Squid. In fact, same as on the Bird series knives from Spyderco. And I have two birds already, Caracara and Meadowlark. I've used those very heavily, and I haven't had a problem with either corrosion or significant dulling. So, and if it does dull, of course, it's very easy to touch up, unlike some really hard super steels. So, it might be nice to have this with a VG10 blade, but you know, the 8CR13 MOV, it may be a budget steel, but it's a quality one, in my opinion. So, overall, this is a great little thing, and it's probably the best small EDC knife out there, in my opinion. And I say that because it's a little shorter than you might want. You know, most EDC knives tend to be 3 inches or 2½ inches blade. At 2¼ this is kind of tiny, but it has enough blade presence to be useful, and it is so small and inoffensive that you can basically carry it anywhere. I mean, nobody's going to look at this and freak out, even somebody who's, let's say, easily startled by knives. This is quite clearly just a mundane pocket tool. So, you know, the best knife isn't necessarily the one that's the best in an abstract sense of, you know, ticking off virtues on a list or features. The best knife at the end of the day is the one you have on you when you need it. And since this is something that, like I said, you can pretty much carry and use anywhere without alarming people who are unused to knives, it's a little small for EDC, but as a mini EDC or smaller than normal EDC knife, sort of just an everyday, I don't want to say instead of your EDC, but, you know, I mean, the Delica is probably the best EDC knife in my opinion. It's lighter than this, it has a slightly longer blade, etc. But if you have to go shorter, if you have to go smaller, this is a pretty good small EDC knife. So that's the That's the Spyderco Ambitious, and in my opinion, it's one of the best little EDC knives out there. Well, round her out.